Biryani, per my little research, is a mixed rice dish originating among the Muslims of South Asia. So I personally got inspired by certain dishes I saw from the Indian community. But then this recipe that I did, I attempted a recipe that was made by a Pakistani chef. Okay, so these are the spices I'll be highlighting on them. But then biryani requires a lot of onions, and so I will be using that. I'll also blend some garlic and ginger, and then I'll be blending some tomato. The tomato is not a lot, so I'm using just two. And I'm adding the tomato to blend at this time to help blend my garlic and ginger. So you can use garlic and ginger paste if you have that, and not necessarily blend the tomatoes. Now, one key thing about biryani is the use of basmati long grain rice, because the grains is usually really long. Now, I have with me here cardamom, which is one key spice I see in all the biryani recipes, some star anise, fennel, black pepper, cumin, and I'm roasting that to activate the oils within them. I'll go ahead and fry the onions. I'll fry them till it's caramelized, so almost it until it turns brown. Now I added some calabash nutmeg to the spices, and then I'm just going to blend it. Biryani requires that you parboil your rice. Now in most recipes they add a number of spices to the rice, but the one that I watched that I'll be leaving in the description box, they didn't really add much, so I added some bay leaf to my rice. But you can add cardamom, all those spices that you may see when you decide to check on biryani recipe. So now my onion had got to that point of perfection. You don't want to go beyond this point because it might burn and it will be bitter. So just at this point will be good. Now I'm using chicken. This is chicken biryani. And again, biryani is a dish that can be made with other protein, but the popular one is chicken biryani. I added some bay leaves, some cinnamon sticks, and then the spices that I blended. The spices that I blended, including nutmeg as well. I grated some nutmeg and added that. So I added a generous amount of that. These are strong spices, so a teaspoon to me is generous. After I fry that in the oil for about 2 or 3 minutes, I'm adding the paste, which is the tomatoes, the ginger, and the garlic. I didn't add any water at all. Now, once the rice begins to boil and it's soft, you can take it out. So I'm going to just drain it, put it in my colander so that the water will drain completely. I'm adding some more spices, and then the recipe I watched called for plums, and fortunately I had some plums at home. How good is that? So the spices I added some pepper and some turmeric and ginger powder that I made at home. Now, the recipe called for yogurt. So this is probiotic unsweetened yogurt that I've added to this. It's similar to making chicken curry. I actually made a recipe on that and I lost everything. So this is similar to making chicken curry, which is also very popular in India. So basically it's like they do their curry and then they add the rice to it to become biryani. Now another important ingredient that some people do add, not everybody, is potato. They add potato to it, but I don't have potato, I have yam, and it worked perfectly. Okay, and I really loved it when the yam was cooked. It was so delicious. So I added some water and I'm going to cover this until it cooks nicely. Now at this point, I'm adding half, okay, no, 2/3 of the onions, okay, that I took out, that I fried. I'm adding it back to it. The rest of it will be used for the topping and then garnishing. So the 2/3 I've added it back to it, and I'm going to stir it, cover it, and let it cook completely. So it cooks to the point where you see the oil surfacing on top like this, just like so. You know that it is beautifully done. By the way, I am using hard chicken. That is what I had. So I am using that. So at this point, it is done. Okay. So now it comes to the biryani. This is the parboiled rice that had been sitting there for a while. I'm going to layer that first, and then I will put in my curry. Okay, now look at the yam. Oh my god, it's so nice. I wish I had added more yam to just eat it. Yes, but then you just pour it over the rice, and then you sprinkle some mint leaves. Okay, but as the time I was making the recipe, I didn't have mint leaves, so I decided to use scallions and green bell pepper. So green onions, spring onions, and green bell pepper. So after the first layer, I'll add the rice again. So basically continuing the process until everything is done. I have to mention though that there was one thing that I didn't do, which was adding food color. So at this point, after layering it, the final part, you add some food color to it. I didn't have any. I feel like that's what also makes biryani unique, but it's not compulsory, just color. Okay. So there's this sauce that goes with it. It's cucumber, and yogurt that you add some lemon juice, some salt and black pepper, and that is what I did. You let the rice cook under low heat undisturbed for 40 minutes, and after that you are good to serve it. So when you see typical like biryani, you see a mix of white rice, the curry, and then the food color that they add to it. Okay, and that is what makes it unique. And also you see that the grains are really long. I feel like my grains are not even long as biryani is supposed to be. But one thing that I appreciate is that trying to explore all these dishes from other countries is just making me a better cook. Like there are some tips that I've picked from this, even with the spices and everything, that has improved my jollof game, has improved my cooking, and I hope you give this a try. Thank you so much for watching, and kindly support me by liking, subscribing, and following me.